Majors Quarantine Corner presented by Fanshawe College, the official educational partner of the London Majors. Noah Smith, Dylan Baker, back with you here for another episode. And Dylan, what has come to our final episode here of Majors Quarantine Corner?
Yes, this is our final episode of Majors Quarantine Corner, Noah, and we've had such a fantastic ride with everyone tuning in to all of our episodes, whether it's on YouTube or Rogers TV that picked us up a little bit later on in our series. We've had some great guests, some great stories were told, and we thank you all for tuning in.
Absolutely. We couldn't have even imagined, how many people have enjoyed watching us. Just start as something to, get some content out there, talk to some former players, some current players over the quarantine period. And, as things start to open up here and, the weather gets great outside, we're kind of moving away from it a bit now. And a good time to end things off here. And two great guests for us today is we're joined by IBL Commissioner John Kastner, as well as London Majors co-owner Scott Dart later on in the program.
Yeah, things are starting to get better outside, and it's beautiful weather. Things are opening up, so we figured what better time to end things off. And we're going to end on a high note, as we've got two great guests, as you mentioned, Noah, John Kastner, the IBL commissioner. You may have seen him on IBL on Deck in the first episode. We're very excited to talk to John. He's a guy that's been around the league for a very long time. He knows it inside and out, and he should be a really fascinating interview. And Scott Dart, Majors co-owner, we're very excited to talk to him. It'll be good to hear from Scott again, having not seen him since last season, so we're excited to talk to both of them.
Absolutely. We were supposed to be interviewing Mike DeLong on this episode. Unfortunately, his schedule got a little bit busy, which we can totally understand with everything going on right now. So that is why John Kastner and Scott Dart will be joining us on the show today. And of course, we'd like to, just hope everyone is doing well so far, Dylan. And like you said, hopefully getting out there, enjoying some of the weather. Without further ado, though, let's go ahead and we'll welcome our first guest here on Majors Quarantine Corner this week, John Kastner. All right, we are joined now by IBL Commissioner John Kastner. John, how are you doing today?
Well, thank you. How are you?
We're good. We're excited to have you on the show and talk to you. For those of our viewers who may not know what your role is as IBL Commissioner, could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm appointed by the 8 teams in the league, and my job is to, like at the governance level, to chair meetings and to represent the league, from media relations, sort of the face of the league. But as commissioner, my job is to facilitate decisions such as length of schedule, what the playoffs are going to look like, how many imports we have. And then a big part of my job is liaison with the umpires. And then as a commissioner, I'm ultimately responsible for discipline.
So a lot of people know you, of course, as the IBL commissioner, but much like other commissioners in other leagues, you've been around this league for quite a while now. You played back in 1979 for the Stratford Hillers, and then you were a sports writer for over 2 decades, and now the IBL commissioner. How's the league changed, and what was the league like back then compared to now?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting that, I look back over my brief tenure as a player, in Stratford. I think about the fact that I was able to play in 1979, and now I look at the caliber of players now. I mean, we had some excellent players. Stratford in particular always had really good imports. The year before I played, we had a pitcher go 10-0. Who was, I think his ERA was under 1. We always had 3 really good players from California. And then over the next, when I became a sports writer, what we really noticed was the beginning of the era that we live in now, where you had really good Canadian players. And we had Canadian players that went on to play pro baseball or Major League Baseball. We had a guy named Mike Gardner who played for the Detroit Tigers. Then we had Rob Thompson, who signed with the Detroit Tigers and became, won a World Series ring as the bench coach for the New York Yankees, and now as the bench coach for the Philadelphia Phillies. And they're all Canadian guys. Damon Topley, who is, of course, the player manager in Toronto, he came to Stratford from North Bay. That was the beginning of where you really got good Canadian players, mostly from Ontario, and you augmented them with 4 imports from the States. But I can tell you, even in my 6 years as commissioner, the last couple of years, the caliber of play, particularly the caliber of pitching, is remarkable. It is, you've got guys that have played pro ball. You've got guys that are going to play pro ball. And, you got guys humming it in at, in the mid-90s. And, with a repertoire of 2 or 3 pitches, the caliber now is not only better than when I played, markedly, it's also better than when I started as commissioner.
Yeah, we've seen this emergence of Canadian talent, as you touched on there, and the pitching side of things. Last year was my first season really invested in watching the IBL, and it's such a talented league, especially from the pitching standpoint, as you touched on there. Being around the league for a while, of course, Labatt Park is the world's oldest baseball grounds, one of the most storied parks in the world. What is your favorite experience there?
My favorite experience there actually, it's a fantastic park. I mean, I love going there on a Friday night, and it's an awesome park. And I find one of those seats on the first base side. I move up high enough that I've got a back on the bench, and I just love that park. Everything about it's fantastic. I gotta remember, I played in a couple of games there as a player that were absolutely fantastic. Were absolutely fantastic baseball games. So I'm a little bit jaded. I know fans really like it. I remember playing there and thinking, what a fantastic place it was to play for me. And I wasn't a very good player. I'm the first person to admit it, didn't play very much. But I always remember that because of the green trees in the outfield, you could see the baseball really well. And because of the way the park is situated with the sun behind your back, you can see the baseball really well. So it's really a hitter's park. And not just dimensions, but the visuals as well.
Now, becoming the IBL commissioner, one of the things we've talked about to you on previous shows is the growth of the league. Is there one thing in particular, though, that you've been really proud of to kind of bring into the league over your 6 years?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that 2 years ago we brought in what we called minimum standards. So there was 50 criteria that each team had to meet. So the first year we did it, it was self-regulated. We distributed that list to everybody. Everybody got the list. They would tick it off, send it back to me, say, this is where we're at. This upcoming year, 2020, was the first year it was going to be independently regulated, where we were going to have fans, people with baseball knowledge, who would unannounced go to a park and go through those 50 boxes and tick them. And then a team would score, and there was an award system that went with that. So we were going to put together a pool of money, and if you got 90%, you got some money back. If you got 50%, you didn't get any money back. And I was really, this is a process that worked out over 2 or 3 years. The other thing I think we've done is we've nailed down some of the gray area rules. I'm a bit of a governance person. We really went through the bylaws and more extensively the rules of operation, because my position was that a lot of the teams said, don't worry about it. You make the right decision, we'll defend you. And, we're all good on that. And that's great up until the time you make a decision that somebody doesn't like, and you don't really have the regulation to support that. And somebody wants to protest a game or take legal action or whatever. So I think the other thing I'm proud of that the fan doesn't notice is we've tightened up the rules and the regulations and some of the bylaws to enable me to do my job with less autonomy. Now there's much less discretion. Who's an import and who isn't is far clearer. What an affiliate player is far clearer. A player playing in another league. This league, quite often we have players go to the Can-Am League. There was always a gray area about when they could come back. What constitutes another league. We've tightened a lot of that stuff up. So the fan doesn't really notice all that. And then the other thing I think I'm equally proud of is that we had a couple of really troubled franchises. 3, in fact. And in my tenure, Burlington was in real trouble. I know 1 year, 3 weeks before the season, because I know I was in Mexico in March, 3rd week of March. I had a call and they said they don't think they were going to operate. That was the 3rd week of March. Guelph, of course, folded partway through the year. And then Hamilton, partway through that same year, said they were not going to operate that year, and they weren't sure they were going to finish the current year. So all 3 of those ownerships have been really stabilized. Burlington, of course, moved to Welland, which is a great move, and new ownership in Hamilton and new ownership in Guelph. So again, the fan might not notice that, but they sort of do because we knew what it was like for an experience in Burlington versus Welland. We saw Guelph not complete a season, which created all sorts of problems with dispersed players, all that sort of stuff. So I think though that is probably the biggest change we made. We really solidified ownership in 3 problematic communities.
Definitely, and the league has really turned into a stable league. That's something fun to watch for fans. They don't have to worry about whether their team's going to finish the season even in July. John, are there any updates that you can provide for us on the upcoming season?
Well, I hope, we're still hopeful. I mean, here we are, early July, and there is, as I've said a number of times, there's a lot of rubble on the road for us to play. We need the municipalities to say you can have the ballparks. We need the province to get into phase 3 where you can have more than 50 people at the park. We need the regional medicals and officers of health to agree to our return to play protocol. There's a bit of rubble on the road, but even now, we're still hopeful that we could have sort of a 2-month season. If we got started mid-July and you went until mid-September, and the 5 teams could maybe play 20 games each and a truncated playoffs, I mean, we're still hopeful. I think one of the things we're reluctant to do is to say, you know what, we're done. We're all done. And then 72 hours later, the province say, hey, Ontario's done really well, which it is doing very well. And for it to come back 72 hours later and say, you know what, summer adult sports is opened up. So it's a little like if being at a casino and you just walk away from that slot machine 2 minutes early. And I think we've got a little bit of that mentality here. Is we know it's a lot of good things have to happen, but we're a little bit reluctant to pull the plug just yet. It's not very far away. Who's kidding who? But that's where we're at.
Absolutely. It's going to be a tough decision to make, and I think it's a good thing overall for the league to be holding out hope for some sort of season, and hopefully we can still get that in. A few weeks ago, John, it was announced that there was going to be a new expansion team in the league. We don't quite know where that is yet. It hasn't been announced. How excited are you to see this league grow?
Well, I think 2 things about that. One, COVID has created a bit of a challenge for that. So we've certainly got a commitment from another community. The question becomes, are they 2021 or are they 2022? And a lot of that also depends on what happens in this province regarding COVID. I mean, they are a little bit reluctant, find it difficult to sell sponsorships, to do improvements to their ballpark, some of the things that we required from them to be a member. So the question becomes, are they 2021 or 2022? The other real positive news is we're now looking at a second additional team. So we could have 2 teams in 2022. We may have one in 2021 and then another team the following year. We might come back in 2022 with 10 teams in the IBL. I think it's great. Increases our physical, geographical footprint as well. And it makes us, a little bit more of a provincial league as compared to a Southwestern Ontario league.
Absolutely. Well, we won't take too much more time of your time, John. We thank you for joining us on the show, and we look forward to hopefully seeing some baseball this summer.
Me too. Thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Well, that was IBL Commissioner John Kastner joining us, Dylan, our first guest on this episode of Majors Quarantine Corner. And it's always a pleasure to get to talk to John. He can certainly talk your ear off for sure, and lots of great information that he shared with us as well.
Yeah, John shared with us some great information. He was telling us some updates on the IBL season. What he's most proud of as commissioner, he really wants to better the fan experience and the competitiveness of the league. And he talked about how the league has changed so much from his time playing in 1979 and even in his time as a sports writer covering the IBL, how much the pitching talent has grown and the talent in general in the league has furthered itself. And it's really awesome to see what the IBL has turned into under his watch.
Absolutely. Continuing to do a fantastic job with this league and continue to grow the IBL. We look forward to talking to John in future shows as well as hopefully seeing him at the ballpark later on this summer as he touched on there. We'll now go ahead and jump right into things with our second guest on this episode, Majors co-owner Scott Dart. We are joined now by London Majors co-owner Scott Dart. Scott, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
We're great. Getting things started, Scott. You've been the owner of this storied franchise for 16 seasons. What has your time with the Majors meant to you?
Well, I think it actually is. It's meant a couple different things. One, it's an opportunity for me to give back to baseball. I grew up playing baseball. I played in the IBL, not very well, mind you, but I did play in the IBL. And it was just a kind of a continuation of kind of what would be next sort of thing. And quite frankly, I thought, what a cool thing to do. And like, how do you actually own a sports team of any sort? So that was kind of neat. And then also it's also, my kids have grown up with the majors now. They've seen it from, when they're 4 years old all the way up to now. And it's given them a little bit of an insight into the kind of the sports business world is also, which to me is just another ancillary benefit that we get from this, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Kind of moving on to some of the stuff that's going on right now. Obviously, no baseball for us still, but we're still holding out some hope. 3 of the 8 IBL teams, Scott, announced early on that they were not going to participate, but there is still 5 teams holding out hope. What was kind of behind the Majors' decision to be one of those 5 teams holding out hope?
I think that the main thing is really being a steward of the franchise, steward of the league, and kind of putting on our league hat when from a business perspective, there was no way that this was going to be anywhere near profitable, and it was going to be a loss for sure. But I think though that if in a league that's spanned since 1919 and the majors being part of that since 1925, for us to actually pull the plug after they've gone through the the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. To me, it just made sense that we hold out as long as possible and we hold out hope, which is really the important piece to it. And again, it's the continuation of sports and baseball and community and bringing people out to watch an event. And we've always said from the very beginning that really what we always wanted was an affordable, family-friendly sports entertainment destination. And we feel, Roop and I feel strongly that that's what we've been able to develop over the years. And you know what, we're, probably the altruistic side of us really thought that, could you imagine once this whole pandemic is over or kind of on the, on the downside, that, communities going to want to get out, they're going to want to do something with their families. And what better place to do it than at Labatt Memorial Park?
For sure. And of course, the majors, they've been around for a long time. This league has stood the test of time. And really, the best part of a summer in London is the London majors, going down to Labatt Park every Friday night and watching the majors play. You and Roop have made this a family-friendly experience, and it's quite something to come down every Friday night and watch the games. Now, Scott, if you had the opportunity to say something to the fans that are really missing coming down to Labatt under the lights every Friday night, what would you say to them?
I think that probably the message would be that we're all in the same situation here. That it's really, we're all fans of the game, or we wouldn't be involved in whatever format that looks like. Whether it's from the fan side, from the ownership side, from the player side, from all of what you guys do as well. Without all of that, the majors doesn't work. So I think that we all want baseball, and we all are looking for some sort of outlet to continue on with it. But at the same time, though, we recognize very, very strongly that the health and well-being of our fans, of our players, of our staff, it's super, super important to us as well. And for the sake of a baseball game taking place, we wouldn't want to jeopardize anybody's future health. And or any of ours for that matter. And we think that there will be a time and a place when sports will start up again, but really all we can do is just stay patient and wait for probably the people that are more intelligent than us with regards to infectious controls and stuff like that, say that it's safe to get back into the ballpark. But again, we've been hearing some rumors that maybe stage 3 might be coming shortly, but again, it's still going to come down to a lot of different things in my mind anyway. Like even if it was only 5 teams that are looking at playing, we've got 5 different municipalities with potentially 5 different rules. Toronto and some of the major urban centers have been kind of lagging a little bit with regards to opening up, and they're kind of more phased approach than what Southwestern Ontario was, as an example, and that could come into play. So even though we've got 5 dance partners that are all waiting kind of at the side of the gymnasium, waiting for that song to come on and find their dance partner, it may not even take place just because not everybody might be available at the same time. So there's still a lot of moving pieces, and we did have our IBL meeting tonight with regards to kind of where we stand and an update from each of the teams. Everybody is still hopeful, but we also recognize as well that the window is closing, and it's closing pretty quick, just because we want to make sure that we also have the integrity to our schedule and integrity of the game, and we don't want it to be something that doesn't look like Majors baseball.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better, Scott. We thank you for joining us tonight. Always good to see you, and hopefully we'll get to see you at Labatt Park sometime soon.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
That was London Majors co-owner Scott Dart, and Dylan, always good to talk to Scott when we get the chance. It's been a while since we got to talk to him last, but some good words there from him, and still holding out hope for a baseball season. Always the biggest thing to take away.
Yeah, for sure. Scott's a great guy to talk to. If you ever see him around the park, he's a super nice guy, and we certainly miss seeing him at all the home games. But Scott's holding out hope. The Majors are holding out hope. Him and Rupert are kind of just sitting there patiently waiting to potentially have a chance to play baseball this summer, as I think we all are. So great conversation with Scott there.
Absolutely. And prior to Scott, it was John Kastner, who was our first guest on this 2-guest show of Majors Quarantine Corner to finish things off here on our final episode, Dylan. And it's really been a pleasure, I know for myself and for you as well, to bring these interviews to our viewers and to everyone who's been able to take these in over the last 9 weeks. It's been an awesome ride for us.
It definitely has been. No, awesome ride's probably the best way to put it. We've had so many great interviews with former players, and now we finish off with a bang. 2 guys on the final show, and 2 high-profile people around the league, as well as John Kastner and Scott Dart joined us today. It's been an awesome time covering the Majors in this short little span during the pandemic, and hopefully we'll be able to catch some games soon.
Absolutely. We'd just like to go ahead and give a thanks to all the guests that we've been able to interview over the last 9 episodes. RJ Fuhr, Robert Doyle, Mike Ambrose, Chris Chambers, Owen Boone, Byron Reichstein, Chris McQueen, Edwin Springer, and of course the 2 that we had on today. It's been awesome. Great hearing some stories, and great to catch up with some guys as well.
Yeah, for sure. There are some of these guys that were around the team a couple of years ago that maybe when we weren't there, but some awesome guys to talk to. And you I'm sure know some of them in the past, and just some awesome conversations with great players. And we hope we can talk more Majors baseball soon.
Absolutely. From Dylan Baker, our media manager, Matt Hiscox, and myself, Noah Smith, and the entire Majors organization, we thank you for watching with us over the last 9 weeks, and we look forward to hopefully talking to you soon.